tuned in. You are now 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 tuned in to the From Earth podcast.
Wait, we're going to introduce me? Roll right
No,
into it.
we're gonna do it.
Yeah, this is round 6.
No, all jokes aside, I don't know what episode this is.
75?
Who knows? 76, 75?
5, I think.
It's somewhere between 75 and 78.
I'm going to check it out. Okay.
Somewhere in there.
You
I'm gonna
rock.
take a guess. Episode 78. What's going on, everybody? This is the From Earth
Jesus.
podcast. I forgot my name, Julius.
78.
Episode 78 of the From Earth podcast. I'm going to say your co-host because we're all co-hosts now. I'm your co-host, Julius from Earth, and I'm here with the homie Esoteric.
What's going on? But wait. We're all co-hosts now? 78 episodes in. Now we all
Yeah,
co-hosts.
now something we got to raise.
You know what? I
Yeah.
got to go.
Yeah.
This is why we've been off the air for a minute. Contract negotiations.
Yeah, y'all ain't see the extra coins in your paycheck?
Yeah.
No, we did not.
Strong.
Yeah, y'all got to take that up with HR then.
Yeah.
Take that up with HR.
Take that up
I'm going
with
to take it to
HR.
the diversity and inclusion.
Yeah,
There you go.
Do that.
And the homie B Davis is in the
What's
building.
happening? What's happening?
I forgot where we were at with that, but the conversation we were just having.
Yes. So
Yeah.
question is basically, as far as the diversity and inclusion type of departments that companies, corporations try to create to reach out to minority communities, who would you want to see head that specifically? It doesn't have to be a specific person, just more or less based on the cultural aspects of what the department represents.
So, all right. So there's a figurehead. There's a person on the screen or in the front person, and then there's somebody like behind the scenes that's actually like
So I'll give
handling the business.
context to it. You'll never see this person.
Oh, this is somebody I'll never see.
I mean, you can always put commercials out for what it is. We see that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying more or less like as far as the outreach, who is heading this program? Somebody behind closed doors, obviously.
Diversity and inclusion. I probably want a minority woman, somebody who is like in the trenches, feet to the ground. That's always got their ear to the street. That's the type of person that I'm looking for.
Mhm.
Because if we're being completely honest, those are the ones who, I mean, they get stuff done.
Mhm.
In my personal opinion.
What about you, B? What you think?
Yeah, that sounds about right to me. You gotta have. I think you have to have somebody at least from the affected group, right? To be able to be a voice for the people that they're trying to include.
Okay.
So I'll start there.
Like
So,
for her name got to be like Tiana.
right.
Yeah, I mean,
Taylor.
like, yeah, you
Yeah.
know, like Keisha, something along those lines.
Did she wear hoop earrings on the weekend with the name
Most
engraved into them?
certainly,
Yeah,
most certainly.
Does she wear Manolo boots though?
Listen, I don't even know what a Manolo boot is, so I'm inclined to say no because I have no idea what that is. Does that look anything like a Timberland?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
it
Well, in
does.
that case, yeah.
Do you feel it bridges the gap between what is understood in these corporate environments as far as having a minority representation to head these types of departments?
I don't know anything about corporate environments, if I'm being completely honest. Like
Okay.
I don't have any experience with corporate environments. I just think that if you're asking me, like from the original question that you asked me, you need somebody, like B said, from the affected group. You need somebody who let's call it what it is. Women they just have a knack, and I know I'm generalizing now, so
It's a positive generalization.
It is
so
a
it's
positive
okay.
generalization.
Yeah, you're allowed to positively generalize.
But they
Yeah,
just have a knack of finding information and being able to disseminate it.
Yeah.
All right. So that was really kind of why I said that's who I'm looking for. Off rip.
Yeah.
That's who I'm looking for off rip.
So what let's just get to the meat. What is your issue with diversity and inclusion departments in corporate America?
I don't think it's an issue. I think it's more or less a understanding of, the if you need to figure out what the gap is, I think, like you guys are saying, you have to be in that fight, but you have to be aware of what's going on. So if I'm saying, hey, what's going on Block C, but I'm gonna send you over there and you report back to me, that's not me getting the full understanding of it. That's just me delegating that out, you reporting back, and me saying, okay, this is what needs to be done. That is not me getting into the streets about that. That's not me getting tangibly responsible for what goes on out there. And it's not for the fact that, knowledge is knowledge. I'm just saying more or less in aspects of, what part of this do I get to feel as an individual to get the true understanding of that? Because most of these people in these corporate environments don't want to trade lives with any of these people they're asking about. But to have an understanding of where they're coming from, to kind of be part of that, you know what I'm saying? Because we can always level up, but how many people are leveling down to get the same understanding? You know what I mean?
So are you saying that they should pick like a frontline worker to lead that group?
I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't want to see any more minority representation for minority issues because we're already in them. Every single one of us are in the minority
What?
issues.
I need you to
Listen,
say that.
listen,
Slow that
listen.
down and say
I
that
will say
one
it.
more time.
Please do not.
Esoteric.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
the
With
clip.
the From
This the
Earth
clip right here.
podcast.
I want you to know that this the clip.
All right, I'll make it
Go.
very easy for all of you. Ready?
Yeah.
Ready? Here we go.
Here we go. He's got to dumb it down.
I'm gonna dumb it
first.
down for everybody.
SO hates black people.
If we're why are you like this?
Yeah, go ahead, just say it. Go ahead, bro. Say what you just said.
Why are you like
Now,
this?
stand on what you just said and
All
say
right.
it again, please.
Let's
This
take-
the clip.
Let's make it layman's terms here. If we have bad credit, right? You're not going to have somebody with bad credit represent people with bad credit. You're going to have somebody who has the credit to understand and say, wait, why are you guys have bad credit? So I don't understand that because I have good credit. So what I need to do is, as me as an individual, is go find out why. Me sending somebody else in that position with bad credit is not going to change the situation.
Did you just equate minorities with
Yes,
having
I
bad
am
Yes,
not.
credit?
yes.
I did not say that. I'm just giving you
SO
a different.
hates black
You're
people.
so stupid.
Volume 2.
Listen, I'm not gonna lie. I'm feeling kind of targeted here.
No,
In
but
this
what I'm saying
conversation.
is specifically is like it's not making the situation any less or any more understandable for somebody who has it. It's just saying you can deal with it because you're of that group. You see what I'm saying? So I don't see there's an understanding of the top and the bottom in any aspects of anything for that matter, because the disparity is still going to be there because of the lack of understanding and then the people they hold responsible to try and understand it, which already understand it. So what I'm saying is for that to happen, you have to give more and take less.
Using your description, you're telling me that somebody who has cannot understand the plight or the mentality of somebody who has not. That's essentially what you're saying in that.
For the most part.
And I don't think that could be any further from the truth, bro.
You think they do?
Yeah, because you're telling me that there's a lack of understanding, as if there's a lack of ability to understand. I don't think there's a lack of ability, and I know we're just generalizing
Right.
or having a conversation, but if you tell me that you have enough wisdom and smarts to understand how to navigate, the system of credit or corporate America, but you can't understand somebody who has circumstances beyond their control or maybe within their control, but they've made different decisions or different things have different things have happened to them. You can't understand how that can impact and affect them.
So we at this table, and for the most part, most minority communities understand the position of privilege that we don't have, correct? Can we agree to that?
Position of privilege that we don't have.
Correct.
I'm not really understanding what you're saying by that, but
Just
keep
privilege
going.
in itself.
Do
When
we
it comes to the
do we
normal,
understand privilege? Sure.
we understand what privilege represents.
Sure, absolutely.
We understand that we don't have the same privileges as most of our coworkers, counterparts, friends, whatever it's a
Sure.
aspect. Okay. So those people who have the privilege, that's their norm. Their lack of understanding of what we're not able to do, they can't see. Because they're not out here caping for us to the same levels that we're expecting for that aspect. They're not. Because then that comes down to, well, they're not used to it. They don't understand it. It's not saying that they're intentionally making that choice. All I'm saying is they're used to what their norm is. We're used to what we're used to. So we see what access they have in their lives, the opportunities they have in their lives based on their privilege. And what I'm saying is there's a disparity between those two. So translate that to, again, the representation of what we're talking about specifically, is the access of privilege to what these people don't understand. Yeah, it may be because it's their norm. And I'm not trying to cape or, I guess you could say, slander any demographic specific to that. I'm just trying to say to bridge that gap, it takes more than having somebody who is in the same bracket as the people you're trying to represent.
Are you saying that offices of diversion and inclusivity should be run by white people?
I'm not saying run, but I'm thinking if you're going to
Headed
make
up as like
if
as a
you make
department
a
head.
difference, right?
Mhm.
Because a lot of times, again, as successful black men or women for that matter, when we level up, we get to see a different light. We understand how they think. We understand different types of
Why is that?
opportunities
And why is that?
because now we're in a different demographic. We're in a different level of playing. So we level up. We can see a different light. Much to like we, me and B talked about, Bel Air. We talked about that, right? And just to use that example, like where Will Smith in the character portrayal saw a different light than what he was used to. So he understands the opportunities he has as an individual, right? But the people that were at the top are less likely to understand where he's come
Who
from.
gave Will that opportunity?
I'm not talking about the opportunity itself. I'm just saying.
But I'm just saying.
That's
When you're
I'm
talking
talking about the
leveling
awareness
up,
of what happens.
Who gave him the opportunity?
I'm talking about the awareness of what happens. You see what I'm saying? The awareness of what happens is specific. Now, Will tried to bring his homie out. He wasn't hearing it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, well, the whole nine. You need to come back to the street. You forgot us. You left us out kind of thing. It is what it is. But what I'm saying specifically is, again, when you see different opportunities, you can assimilate and you can understand better what's available to you. And I'm not saying people are responsible that it should only be. I mean, obviously, but I think it should go hand in hand with, okay, you have both. You have somebody of minority status with somebody who is not.
so you're
And you conjoin those two.
you're
to
talking
have a
about
better-
you're talking about people who are a little bit more well-rounded, right? Who have experience in a plethora of areas. That's what you're
Why
talking
can't
about.
that person be a minority?
And that's
because
the
it's
question.
always a minority, but it's always a minority representation for the. I need you to help us understand what's going on in your communities.
So here's the thing, right? Because I almost understand what you're talking about, but at the same time, the issue with corporate America, these groups, these departments of diversity don't exist in a vacuum, right? They're often part of the C-suite of the company, right? So the reason that they exist is because generally these companies are run by old white men,
Of course,
right? And these companies being run by old white men are then subject to their biases, both conscious and subconscious.
Correct.
So the reason you bring in somebody who is a minority or somebody who is not an old white man is because you were trying to counteract or offset the biases that have already been brought in, which have then been sprinkled into the rest of the C-suite of the company, right? If the president of the company feels that way, the vice president feels that way, and the executive vice president and the associate vice president and all your directors and all your managers. That's the issue, right? And so when those things come down from the top, somebody has to be able to step in and say, no, this ain't it.
AKA somebody has to be of a diverse opinion.
Exactly. Like you can't have an office of diversity without diversity. Like if you're talking about having an office of diversity and still having a whole bunch of white people sitting in a conference room, there is zero diversity
but the
and
diversity
inclusivity in the room.
should not include a specific title to diversity. That's not diversity, bro. That's not what
That's
that is.
absolutely diversity. You have to face these issues head on.
That is a patsy.
It's not a patsy. You have to face these issues head on.
Okay.
If you just want to be cynical about everything that happens in corporate America, you can do that, right? You can decide that everything a company does is bad because companies are here to make money and they obviously work in their own interest, right? That is what a company does. That is commerce. That is capitalism. We understand that, right? At the same time, companies do still have employees. And employees are getting louder every day saying, yo, you can't treat me like this. And so somewhere in there, they have to find somewhat of a workable balance. It'll never be 50-50, right? I'm never going to have the same, like we talked about privilege
Right.
as the CEO of the company that I work for. That's never going to happen. But there does need to be a relationship where I can come into work, be a productive member of work, not feel like I'm killing myself working, and still be productive for the company and provide revenue, right? That's my job as an employee. We have to get closer to that. Now, the reason these offices exist is because you see people that are sitting at the bottom of these jobs that are minority, that are women, that are gay, that are trans, that are Asian, that are whatever that is not white, and they're still sitting at the bottom because no one's giving them a chance. Why? Because of the biases, whether it's subconscious or conscious. That's why you have to have somebody who represents those groups in the room and talking when these things go on. If nobody's in the room talking that's representing you, you're not represented.
You have no representation.
You're not represented, no matter how well-meaning they might be. I don't want a large group of white people ever being the only thing that represents me. Because at the end of the day, when shit gets tight,
It's not
I'm the
representation.
first
though.
one out.
And so I think we're missing the marker on
Well,
this.
yeah,
Is
help
we're
us-
not. I'm
help
not
us
talking
understand.
about representation. If I need somebody to represent me on a corporate level, obviously it should be one of us. obviously, as far as representation.
Right.
But as far as bridging the gap, that's different because we're talking about a lack of understanding.
So bridging the gap isn't what they do, though, right? When you're talking diversity and inclusivity offices, what you're talking about is policy making. You're talking about policies of the company that might be extricably harming a set of one piece of the community of the company, unknown or unbeknownst to the people that are making the policy. That's really what these people are doing. They're not necessarily advocating for individuals, but they're saying, hey, you have a hiring process that does not work for Asian Americans because of X, Y, and Z. We need to think about this process and say, wait a second, how can this be more equitable to that group so they're on par with everyone else?
So having a minority in these positions of leadership in the executive levels, does that educate the average white male in position?
You'd have
I mean, historically, have we seen
I mean, this is a conjecture argument right here at this point,
it most
right?
certainly is, because
Like,
are we? First of all, we're not talking about educating everybody else in the company. If that's what you're talking about, then we're not talking about a diversity and inclusion.
Well, executive levels are very small. I mean, you're probably looking at maybe no more than maybe 8 people, give or take. Who cares? You know what I mean? It's not like it's a workforce like we're talking
Sure.
about on a normal basis.
sure.
And actually, gotta take that call, but give me a second.
Is that your diversity and,
I was about to say,
and
that's your
equality
diversity officer
That's my Republican friend.
must be.
Actually, I do have to call that back. But anyway, it's not to the point where, again, we're talking about small areas of opportunity. You know what I mean? Where most of these, like you said, are headed by white men.
Right.
For the most part.
Right.
Sprinkled in the white female, sprinkled in one or two, maybe, who knows.
Right.
But it's not a large group of people.
Correct.
On the executive levels, we're talking.
Correct.
So the executive levels is what dictates the flow of what goes on into the workforce.
Correct.
You know, so if we're talking like, hey, we have a minority group of representation, and this person's going to head for us because they're going to advocate for our people for equal pay, equal whatever. Different story. I understand that. You're absolutely right. We do that for us. We do. To
Correct.
be our voice as a collective unit.
Right.
I'm not saying that from working up to gain. I'm talking about from the lack of knowledge from the top that they're trying to say, we need this department specifically to understand what's going on down there.
Oh no. They don't need the department to understand.
most certainly
They
do not.
know what's going on.
But
This
it doesn't
gives them-
change their view, is what I'm saying. Like
No.
they hire
No, of
the
course
position
not.
specifically, and I feel it's just a waste of space for them. I would never want to head, personally speaking, a division like that. I would never want to head the diversity and inclusion because it's like you're not fixing the problem. You're making me responsible for something I already can tell you, but you are not holding yourself responsible for things that are happening or your lack of understanding.
SO will not be hiring any black people.
I
Correct.
hired nothing but my friend
Correct.
and have trained some successful ones.
Correct. Terrible.
Terrible.
Yeah, I mean, do I think that every CEO at the top of these large companies really cares whether they have diversity or inclusivity? Probably not. But do they recognize that they need to have one these days just because? More than likely. You know what I'm saying? I think employees care more about this, about being able to have a voice or somebody that they can go to if they feel like something is going on.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I actually understood the original premise, to be honest.
I think the original premise was SO hates black people. I think that's where we kicked off this pod. For whatever reason, over the last 2 months or so that we have not been podding, he forgot that all his friends are black. You know what I'm saying? And that once upon a time he was also black. Yeah, I mean, I think he forgot that. It's cool. I'm gonna remind him.
You gonna remind him?
I'm gonna let him know. Hey, what's going on, buddy? Welcome back. Welcome back.
Yeah, I still hate black people.
There we go.
Great.
Oh, okay. All right, so we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Same page.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you who I do not want to be in my equality and diversity department.
Slim Shady.
Aries Spears and Tiffany Haddish.
Oh, wow. Jesus.
That's where I'm going with that.
Too soon.
Right now, neither one of them are coming anywhere near
Nah.
executive level in
Nah.
any company that I'm involved in.
They might actually get canceled.
So let's talk about it real quick, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
apparently, Aries Spears, Tiffany Haddish were involved in a skit that essentially was like a spoof on pedophilia,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
while I'm glad I haven't seen the clip or the video,
Mm-hmm.
I keep hearing that there is one.
Yeah.
And the nasty work part about it is that they're doing their rounds now, their cleanup or whatever. Apparently, Tiffany Haddish doesn't have good enough lawyers because she's talking.
Right.
That's problematic.
Right.
Now, I'm not in a position to say whether or not somebody should, be outright defending themselves
Right.
when there's a potential legal matter
Mhm.
or whatever. But when you're talking about something as serious as being, attached to,
Yeah.
making fun of pedophilia or even being involved in some type of,
Yeah.
questionable type of stuff regarding that,
Yeah.
I think the best mode to be in is silent.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I don't know. I don't.
like I'm just,
I don't know.
what can you say?
She can't defend this,
Yeah.
right? Like, short of saying she was held hostage and forced to make the video herself. Like, I did watch the clip, right?
Okay.
Because I saw the outrage, right? And I didn't want to not be educated about what it was that we were
Okay.
outraged about,
All right.
right? And so I was like, I need to see what's going on, and it was bad. From a standpoint of the content in general, from the just the idea, right? I watched it and I said to myself, who signed off on this?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, who wrote this skit and thought this was funny?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't. It wasn't even a haha. Okay, I see what they were trying to do. This is so outlandish. It's not that.
Well,
bro.
when you think about it, when has pedophilia ever been funny? It's always been a fringe topic.
It has
right?
been.
It's always been a fringe topic to begin with.
So, I mean, if we're being honest about this, right? I think that if you look back at comedy in the late 80s, maybe even the 70s, the late 80s, the 90s, right? I think there were plenty of jokes made about this type of topic, right? Talking about, the creepy uncle type of thing, right? I think plenty of comedians have made that. And we've just laughed at the joke and gone on about it. In 2022, however, I don't think you can make those jokes anymore, right? And the way they were trying to make, like, it was just bad. It was just bad all the way around. Like, you can't excuse it because they were trying to make a joke. And then it was also a bad joke, right? And the delivery of what they were trying to do was also horrible. Like, everything about it was bad. Okay. There were zero redeeming qualities. There was no reason that skit ever should have saw the light of day.
Yeah.
There was no reason anybody ever should have uploaded it. There was no reason they ever should have made it.
Well, that was where, when I first heard about it, I was like, who signed off on this?
Right, exactly.
Like, who thought that this was a funny enough topic?
Right.
And then when they shot it, they decided to say, like, let's put this on film.
Exactly. Let's edit this and keep it. Like,
yeah, and who said, like, let's keep this?
It was bad from the beginning, from the inception.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so from that standpoint, it's like all the way around, it was just horrible.
Yeah.
Like, there's certain things in your career, like, you just shouldn't do.
Right.
In my personal opinion, you just shouldn't do certain things.
Right. Right.
As a comedian, I understand that they have a tendency, they have a responsibility to push the envelope,
right,
push the conversation forward.
Correct.
But my understanding with this was not that.
This wasn't that. It wasn't that at all. It wasn't that at all. It was bad. It was bad. And they're going to be held accountable, especially with now that the backstory is out from the people involved in it, and how it came about. They didn't know what they were shooting. Like, it wasn't like they had signed up for this.
Yeah. Right.
They thought it was completely something else that they were coming in to do, and this is what they ended up with. And they felt like they were forced into recording this because they're talking to adults. These are kids. These are kids that were there. There wasn't really an adult in the room on behalf of the kids at the time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So they didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, yo, like, who was in charge here?
Yeah.
Like, this is one of those situations where I'm like, you're gonna get whatever you got coming to you one way or another.
Well,
I don't know if it's a legal situation or if it's a for real canceling, where like you're just not. I mean, Ari Spears was on his way out anyway.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
He was like after the whole Lizzo dust up situation, running his mouth last week on that. for no reason,
for no reason.
bro.
Let's hold on. You know what? Let's break it down. So Ari Spears. Let's talk about Ari Spears, right? Like he was hot during Mad TV time.
yeah,
Like if we're keeping it,
which was like what,
Years
mid
ago.
'90s?
Yeah.
it was like late. It was
Like
at the
early 2000s.
yeah. It was like early 2000s.
Yeah, yo,
at the
like come
latest.
on, fam.
Like he was hot then,
Yeah.
and I understand the resurgence when you're still in the business or whatever. Like I get it, but like you said earlier, this is 2022.
yeah,
Like sometimes you have to be able to adjust
Right.
with the times. And you have to be able, because a lot of that stuff, like I'm sure there's a lot more content from entertainers and creators and stuff that they would love to keep
right,
in the closet.
right.
You know, from
Right.
their late '90s, 2000s, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That they don't want to see the light of day.
Content. See, here's the thing about the comedy game now, right? What works in the comedy club does not inherently also work on Twitter. Two very different audiences, right? People that are coming to see you at the they know what you do, right? They know your brand. They are there because you say those things. People on Twitter do not care about that,
Correct.
right? And they want to, first of all, people on Twitter want to be mad about everything anyway, right? We already want to start an argument about something on Twitter. Now, when you give them something legitimate to be upset about,
Yeah.
you're going to trend for 6 days straight and not in a good way.
Facts, not in a good way at all.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's just what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah,
And that's Ari Spears. And then there's a whole lot probably more swirling about Tiffany Haddish.
yeah. Well, people didn't like Tiffany Haddish anyway.
Well, I was going to get in. I don't really want to get into that, but the reality of it is that you're right.
Yeah,
That Tiffany Haddish has always been somebody that people kind of side-eyed anyway
Yeah.
in the comedy game.
right.
And then just as consumers of comedy,
Yeah,
you have whatever your opinion is
Yeah.
of Tiffany Haddish. I have mine.
right,
I don't care to voice it right now, but
right.
I have my opinion. And
Sure.
I wasn't. I'll be one of the first to say I wasn't necessarily running to any type of material that. Bro, are you okay over here?
Bro, it's some stuff, but go ahead.
Okay. All right. So, because now I lost my train of thought.
Yeah.
But I was
From a
Tiffany
beep.
Tiffany Haddish.
Mm-hmm.
I overheard a conversation in the back room, but no, I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's just there's so many things swirling about
Yeah.
about these two that you're right, babe. They may both effectively be canceled.
Yeah. This isn't like this isn't. I just don't think this is one you can walk with. The video evidence was there, and it was bad. It wasn't. Like a 50-50. Well, if you look at it, nah, fam, nah.
I
It was
mean,
bad.
so we were talking earlier about inclusion and diversity and who should head up, those things from an executive level in corporations, and then from this, like going from that, there's a parallel in my opinion to this. Like certain things need to be left alone, and diversity and inclusion and inclusivity, like that should be specifically for diverse and inclusive people. Like if people saying, if you're telling me that somebody who looks like Joe Biden is heading up that division, then we're screwed, right?
I'll take Dark Brandon.
Dark Brandon.
Yeah.
From IT.
But like
Dark.
all jokes aside, and I don't want to get too deep in this because I don't want to get canceled myself.
Yeah.
But there are questions about whether or not pedophilia should be thrown in a certain category. Right?
Of what?
It sounds
Right
crazy.
or wrong?
Of a sexuality. Right. I'm not saying whether I agree or disagree, but I've heard the arguments being made.
Right.
So
that,
here's the issue with that. And this is going to open floodgates. Because if it's this today, it's something else tomorrow. There is no way you can have an exception to a rule to include as a demographic specific to a certain type of people. You can't. Because that's not something that we are on a consensus of believing.
Wait, say that again?
There's no way for this specifically when it comes to the sexual nature of how people interact with a minor that you can have on a platform to represent you
Right.
because they're still minors.
So here's a question.
Because here's what that does. For one, for the minor, okay, what describes a minor,
Okay.
right? You have to define that. Then as far as that's concerned, it's like, okay, so these types of people, so to speak, minors, inclusive, are now only based on the sexual preference of people who prey on that specific age gap.
What about sexuality in general? Right? Does sexuality absolutely have to involve sex, the sex act, or does it involve more of the the preference,
Right.
more of the attraction,
Preference, no.
right?
I wouldn't say preference. I mean, that's something that people discover for themselves and at their given
Like I
time.
don't listen. I'm not. I am not the.
No, I know,
I
I
am
know.
not the lead, the head person to take this conversation
But
on.
we're talking about
And,
pedophilia
and I know it sounds
as
crazy
a representation
and nasty and creepy and coming off the tongue. It's just like ugh. But like I said, I've heard the argument being made.
The argument gets made. This comes up every couple of years, right? And I would say probably about every 7 to 8 years, this kind of resurfaces and brings itself back around. The argument is that you can be. The argument they say is that you can be a pedophile but not act upon the urges of pedophilia, right? And so they say, why should I be eviscerated and excoriated for having an urge even though I don't act upon it because I know it's illegal? That's the argument for normalizing pedophilia in a nutshell,
I know it sounds crazy.
It is crazy.
right? And so, right, exactly. And I don't think we'll get there. Like, we are at the point where we recognize that some people that identify themselves as half human, half wolf, and I think that's okay. But I don't think we're ever going to get to the pedophilia thing. I don't think that. I think that's. I'm dead serious when I say that, bro. I literally watched a TikTok the other day of this chick who said she feels like her soul is like part wolf.
This might like
Is she hairy?
This episode is getting dark. And
I may know one.
and-
I'm just saying. I saw it. Like, I'm not saying whether it's good, bad, or whatever. I'm just saying it's out there, right?
listen.
Like, this is that. Like, we're there. We're at that point.
So
Right.
here's an interesting question,
tread
right?
lightly, bro.
No, we are trying light because we're talking about pedophilia, obviously, as the main topic
Right.
specifically.
Yeah.
So, if we're going historically in this country, what I'm saying, where what was the acceptable age for most women or young adults, at that matter, was 12 to 14 historically in this country.
Right.
And then and I personally don't know the answer to this, but what point did it become where it wasn't acceptable for that anymore? Because we had these people who were on farms, and again,
Right.
the expectancy age of living was different then.
Bingo. And that's probably where we started to
Right.
say, hey, wait a second, you're living till 60 now.
Right.
This ain't cool for you being with this 11-year-old.
But I'm saying, like, it
Find
was
someone
something
closer
that was
to half your own
basically.
age.
But there's a lot of other countries who would probably go against what we're saying as well.
Right.
So,
Right.
respect for them and whatever it is may be. I'm
Yeah.
just saying specifically in this country, we're going. I hate to say it, but like it's almost like we're going back to the roots.
I was about to say,
what the country was
tread
built
lightly.
on.
Okay.
The same principles.
Right.
Of,
Well, I mean, it never left, right?
well, yeah, exactly.
you know,
They never did. It was just
No.
more or less. Now we labeled them
right.
as I don't want to do that. Oh, it's
Sure.
pedophilia. Oh my god. But a lot of the same people who are grown and who have known a certain principle their entire life and transition that to their kids and whatnot of an understanding
Right.
is acceptable.
Sure.
In Hispanic communities, it's the same thing. The celebration of quinceañeras and all that types of things is basically 15, 16, That's the level of womanhood all of a sudden, where it's an acceptable age to be deemed a woman.
Right.
I do think it's also important for me to put out there that when we're talking about this, we're just talking about, like we said, the thought process and the mentality. We're not talking about the aggressive, abusive, completely just
No, we're not talking
the
about that.
act of
No.
abusing people.
We're not talking about Catholic
specifically
priests.
children. We're not
Right.
talking about that, right?
Right.
So I feel like I should have given that as a disclaimer
Yeah.
from the jump, because that's a whole separate sect of people.
Right.
And
No, we're just talking about the conversation that exists, that this narrative is out there.
Correct.
Right. That's it. We're not advocating for said narrative or for said people.
Correct.
Just saying this is the conversation.
The fact that these are conversations, though, is like, bruh.
Thank R. Kelly for that.
Yeah,
well, but we'll talk off mic a little bit more, just because
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how far off this conversation is from some other things, but I got a job to do and I want to continue getting paid. So
Yeah.
And you deal with kids.
yeah,
and
I
shit.
think we're at our marker for the evening. I know it went quickly, right?
Yeah.
It went quickly. It's good to get back into that, driver's seat with the podcast and everything like that.
Side note: none of this was on the dock. But go ahead.
None of it was on the docket. None of it. Not a single topic.
Do we have notes this week?
we
No,
don't.
we
No,
never
don't.
have notes.
Okay, good.
But this is our
We
whole
tell
week.
him we do, and then we just let him
Yeah,
think
yeah,
he does.
this is our whole week. You know, where
Yeah.
we just, you know what I
We
mean?
just go off the
You
top.
Yeah, we went in the booth and went off the top.
God did.
Yeah, facts. Yo, they're gonna be giving lectures on that, on his verse on that. By the way.
Facts, yo. That's
all right.
crazy.
So we're closing out. So, is there anything you want to end with?
Nah, man, I'm good.
That he hates black people.
Oh,
Aside
Jesus.
from that, aside from that.
And B loves white women.
B, do
Big
you want to
titty
defend?
white
Do you
women.
want to defend yourself?
I love everybody. What did he say about me? What did he say about me?
He said that you. He said that you specifically have a preference for big titty white women.
I wouldn't say big titty white women, but I would say big titty women. You know what I'm saying? Because again, Office of Diversity and Inclusivity. You know what I'm saying? I don't have policies that would hinder a specific group.
They don't exclude.
Right, exactly. I don't exclude.
But one
Gotcha.
gets up to the front of the line. The
Nah,
rest
we-
of the back of it.
Got
we,
it.
we,
Got
we,
it.
we
Got
accept
it.
all big titty women over here.
We
You know
get
what I
it,
mean?
we get it.
You
We
want to
get
waste my time for 3 to 6 business months? You know, I'm all right with that. It's cuffing season.
It's cuffing. It is cuffing season.
It's cuffing season.
It is cuffing
It's
season.
100%.
I know we're
Get you
closing
a
out.
cuff.
September is also Suicide Prevention Month, so just want to speak real briefly to that. For anybody who's having thoughts, emotions, whatever, please reach out. Use the hotline. Does anybody know the hotline? I think they dialed it down. It was like the artist Logic actually made a
I was
song
about to say that's
with
logic,
with the number, but
Yeah,
I think they
I know
actually
the hotline.
I think they actually dialed it down.
Yeah.
For people who are maybe couldn't remember that number.
Right.
But it is Suicide Prevention Month, and I just want to speak to those people who may struggle
Right.
with thoughts, feelings, emotions, or whatever. That we see you, we hear you, we love you. We want you to get all of the help and attention that you may need. And the number for the
Hold up,
hotline,
you can just call 988.
988.
Yeah.
988
988.
is the number that you dial if you're feeling or having thoughts, intrusive thoughts
Yeah.
about unaliving yourself. Please take the time out.
And you can text them too.
And you can text. Thank you.
24 hours a day. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Pass that information along to all of our listeners, viewers, anybody who knows, may have known, or just if you have a reach, just put it out there. It's that time. We want to make sure that everybody feels heard and seen. So sorry to end on a somber note, but
Yeah.
I feel like I had to do that. All right.
Tell a joke or something.
Why did the chicken cross the road?
All right, we're done. So go ahead and sign off.
So we can end this podcast.
Exactly. So we can end the podcast. All right, yo. We got nothing else. This is Julius Murphy signing out. Peace.